Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing tonight? Today I'm going to talk about independent voting. How do you feel about government? I feel very strongly about our government. I feel that it's skewed. I feel that the Democratic and the Republican Party make no sense. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Jimmy Carter said, "Gradually you've heard more and more about what the government thinks or what the government should be doing, and less about our country, about our nation's hopes, our dreams, and our vision of the future." With this quote being said, it is something that I feel is very devout within me. The government has changed. The Republican Party is all about capitalism, all about free trade and whatnot. And then the Democratic Party just seems to want to, make you pay more and more and more, and just wants to make everything so socialized and make it this devout, socialist nation, which is not what we're based upon. We're based upon these democratic values that mean small government. That is why we seceded. That is the reason why we went to war with Britain, because we felt that their government was too large. We felt that King George III pushed too far with us, and that Parliament pushed even farther. And so this is why we got rid of that. And yet, 300 years later, we're reverting back to the same style. This is not the way that our government should be ran. Parties are not to be formed. According to the real class polls, 21% of Americans approve of Congress. 21%. Statistically speaking, that means that there's a total of 79% of all Americans that do not approve of our Congress. What's worse, only 46% of our, according to the same poll, only 46% of Americans approve of the president. Now that is a little bit closer. However, only 46. That's less than 50% of the nation approves of what our president's doing at this point. 46%. Think about that for a moment. 46%. Not 60. Not even 50. Approve of what the president is doing at this current time. The Bureau of International Information's program says that within political parties, there's a lack of adherence in political goals. Each one is skewed biasly, and each one does what they want. They have their own personal agenda. And you hear it on the news all the time. You turn on Fox, you turn on CNN, you turn on MSNBC. You hear them say every single time, this is what we need. And whenever the Democrats are in power, this is what they're going to do. When the Republicans are in power, this is what they're going to do. And then there's this flop, that whenever a Democrat leaves, or the majority of Democrats exit, then the Republicans enter, and they come into the time of dominant power, that there's this 18 months of transition that slowly change our government from this style to this style. But the thing is that is deeper. It is 18 months of policy changing, and then that is 8 years of changing the law, changing the public policy. And the government, our government isn't as instantaneous as a lot of people think it is. Government is slow to work. Government is something that you hear a bill being passed, and it's passed, and then it goes into play. And it slowly lays itself out. And that's fine that we continue to do that. But think of the whiplash that we're giving our citizens. Think of the whiplash we're giving ourselves by that. And that is the reason why I have to say that there should be no parties. There should not be Democrats, Republicans, Green Tea Party. There shouldn't be anything. I think that we should all vote independent. That we should all be independent. That our politicians should focus on a view, focus on the vision, focus on their constituents, and push forth with that. 30% of all Americans identify themselves as independents, according to Rose Cook, who's a political analysis. 30%. That's a third of our nation. These people have a voice, they have an opinion, they have an idea, and yet they continue, the government, these people aren't allowed to vote in the Democratic primary. These people aren't allowed to vote in the Republican primary. They are treated as the same, they are treated similar to the black Texans and the Republicans in the 1960s in Texas, according to Philip Pope, who is a professor at Texas Tech University. This is the same trend that happened in Texas, and then the Supreme Court finally ruled that this is illegal, this is wrong. You can't tell people that they must vote a specific way, and that if they don't, then their vote does not count. This has got to stop. It is not a question of if or when, it has to. Because until it stops, we're going to continue in this whirlwind, and our economy is going to fluctuate in that same sense. Everything is going to just be completely and totally skewed, and nothing's going to happen on Capitol Hill. What's going to happen whenever one day Congress's approval rating is 10%, then the president's is 15%, and there's so many Americans that are so dissatisfied with our government that civil war breaks out. We claim that we're a stable nation, and we very well may be. But at the same time, what happens whenever we cross that barrier? What happens when we already have lost faith in our government. What happens whenever we push forth? And what happens whenever we go past the point of no return? That's the reason why I say we should all become an independent nation. We should all vote independent. Forget about Democrat, forget about Republican, forget about Federalist, Green Party, Whig Party, any of that, anything that used to exist, and push forth and have independent politics. People whose bias isn't focused heavily on the economy or focused heavily on social welfare. Let's meet in the middle. Let's focus on the economy and social welfare at once. Let's push for things, and then whenever we realize that it's too much, let's refrain. I urge you to become independent. I urge you to push forth and try and follow the issues. Listen to what that person is saying. And if you think that they are the best person for the job, then go forth and do it. Forget about whether they're Democrat. Forget about whether they're Republican. Forget about all of that. Push forth and listen to the issues. Take the time and make the decision that you think will best represent you. Are there any questions? Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful night.